football season's here, and I guess last year we had some great bets on Brock Purdy at great numbers. Sammy, you had a great bet on Tyreek Hill to be MVP. And I think the moral of the story, if it wasn't going to be Tyreek Hill or if it wasn't going to be Christian McCaffrey last year, don't bet on anybody other than a quarterback. And I think the odds obviously dictate that with Patrick Mahomes, a big favorite, Josh Allen, second choice 8-1, CJ Stroud, Joe Burrow coming back. It feels like everybody has a Jared Goff ticket. We know how that usually ends. But Sammy, I'll start with you. I know I say you can't bet someone other than a quarterback, but are you going to follow that advice? Are you going to stay with the quarterback this year in the market? Or are you still maybe going to try and dig deep for a little bit of value?
I dug deep last year, and then I remember our editors at Fox said, "Hey, you should write this piece on Tyreek Hill." And I was like, "Oh, don't make me do it. Don't make me do it." And I wrote it, and 3 days later, he rolled his ankle, and that was it. It was the kiss of death. So I don't know. And now, of course, Tyreek Hill, 75-1, 80-1. I bet him at 125-1 last year, and it's basically a coaster in my office right now. I don't understand this CJ Stroud 7-8-1. I like CJ Stroud, and I think, I'm going to get into the Texans maybe in a little bit, how I feel about their team this year, but I cannot bet these guys at 7-8-1. I'm looking for bigger pops. I was looking at Justin Herbert, but now he's hurt. That's blown out to 22-1. Dak is always sort of a guy that puts up numbers. The division's kind of weak after Philly and Dallas. Dak at maybe 20-1 isn't.
He was third last year, wasn't he?
He was at one point. Wasn't he favored last year?
I think so.
Week 10, week 11. The crazy thing about this market, and we talked about this all last year, is that you're going to have 6 different favorites over the course of the year. So my advice for anybody would be to take those guys at the top, just wait them out because they're probably at some point going to get a little bit higher. And you want to pop the guys in that 20-30-1 range. You mentioned Goff. Tua is 25-1. And I'll tell you what, one of my buddies bet 1,000 on Anthony Richardson at 30-1. I don't have any investment on that, but that's a long way of me saying, like, it's basically find a good number and bet that, and then you build off that.
Yeah, and I would just say, like you mentioned, Goff. Goff was a hot name, and I certainly understood Goff 35-40-1. I wrote him up at, I think, 35-1. It's a lot different now at 20-1, and that's really the theme with the MVP, where you look at 2018, 2019, Lamar, Mahomes, these guys won the award at 80-1, 75-1, first-year starters. You look at the board, the books have gotten sharper in how they price this stuff, unfortunately. The party's kind of over where we know what it's going to be. We know it's going to be a quarterback, and we know it's going to be a quarterback of a top 2 seed, too. I think you go back like 15 years. Of course, Peterson won it in, 2012 as a running back. But other than that, the only non-1 or 2 seed was Peyton Manning in 2008. His team was like 12-4, but they didn't win the division. So you got to win the division. You got to be a 2 seed. Should we go back to the well with Brock Purdy at 16-1? That's a team. They're always good for 12, 13 wins. I know you have to worry about the Super Bowl hangover. I know, the Ayuk trade is now in the mix, but he's going to put up stats. He's going to, limit interceptions. He's got a million weapons around him. He's probably going to win 12 games. He's probably going to be lower at 16-1 now. He's probably going to be lower than that at some point, late in the season when they're whatever, 10-4, 11-3, whatever it is, and he's got gaudy numbers again. Same sort of thinking as last year now. We had 22-1 last year, and we went into Christmas. I think he was minus 300 or whatever the money line was on the 49ers versus the Ravens at Christmas night, and I know he's probably still out there throwing interceptions, throwing to guys in the wrong uniform, but I think of all of the numbers, that's probably still my favorite one at least.
So, Will, I'll kind of raise your point here. It's been since 2014 that a quarterback that's not the 1 seed of the conference has won the MVP. It's very simple. Who is winning the conference or who's the 1 seed in a conference? That's who you bet on. Patrick Mahomes. Like, I don't know why it's so difficult. I know we want to find plus 2,000, plus 1,600, but Purdy's an option, but they have no wide receivers right now. Like today, the news, like 3 guys are
McCaffrey
injured.
just got hurt too. He hurt his calf.
Yeah. McCaffrey hurt, Pearsall hurt, Ayuk seemingly traded any second now. The Niners aren't going to be quite the same team. Their left tackle right now, not there. The rest of the offensive line, not very good. Bunch of injuries on the offensive line. I'm not quite sure it's the 49ers. If you like the Lions to be the 1 seed in the NFC, Goff is certainly playable. In the AFC, as a Chiefs fan, I worry about a team like the Bengals. Like Joe Burrow, they find a way. to beat the Chiefs all the time. Now they play week 2 this year. It's a little different than playing the end of the season. But to me, it's like it's Patrick Mahomes, it's Burrow. If you think that Jordan Love and the Packers are the 1 seed, throw the money on them. But betting someone to, Anthony Richardson to finish 10-7, he's not winning the MVP.
You know what I heard there, Will? I heard someone say, with all these 49ers injuries and everybody hurt, I heard New York Jets last undefeated team. That's what I heard.
I think that sounds pretty good. And you and I don't need any fuel to the fire. I am already on an island here, same as last year. We can just run it back from last year, but it's different than last year, which I know we sound like those people that always. Well, no, this year it's going to be different. Well, this year I think it is going to be different. They really fortified the offensive line, and if you heard me on the other shows, man, I've been pounding the table for this team. I thought they had a really good offseason. They addressed the offensive line every single way: free agency, draft, trades, and look, they don't have a quarterback on their team last year, a team that won 7 games, that's even going to be a backup this year. It's all third stringers. It's probably guys that are never going to ever throw another pass in the NFL. When you look at Trevor Siemian, Zach Wilson, and Tim Boyle. What's the over-under for passes thrown for those guys the rest of their career? Maybe Zach Wilson gets in a game somewhere and throws one, but he's probably the third string for the Broncos. The team still won 7 games, and now you're even your backup quarterback situation is different with Tyrod Taylor. And you look at the competition in the division too, because I think the division is certainly winnable and certainly playable, and that's the way to go. Buffalo has a brutal schedule. They play all 4 teams that were in the conference title games last year. So that's Ravens, Chiefs, that's Lions, 49ers, then 2 versus the Jets, 2 versus the Dolphins, and they play at the Texans. Their other competitor is Miami. Miami, we know, struggles in cold weather. Look at them late in the season. At Green Bay, at Cleveland, and at the Jets, all like late November or on. So how is that going to go for them? Jets are like 2-1 to win the division. Like you said, 15-1 last undefeated, because if you can get by the San Francisco game, it's a big if. But after that, it's a lot of Patriots and Steelers and Broncos and Titans. There is a path, Bear. There is a path. I know hope can be a dangerous thing, but there is reason to have hope here for the Jets.
I've got them favored 15 times, guys. I got the Jets favored 15 times this year. And I guess, should we have that conversation, Bear? Are we
16-1 Aaron Rodgers MVP?
Well, 25-1 at FanDuel. I mean, that's the important conversation. We can all talk about who we like to win the MVP, and we're probably all going to be wrong. But I think you have to consider, this is why you have multiple outs, right? DraftKings has 16-1. Some books have 25-1. There's a 20-1. There's a 18-1. So no matter who you bet, you have to get the best number, because you make a $100 bet on Aaron Rodgers, he wins the MVP. We're talking a $900 difference if you bet 16 or 25-1. So just get the right number in whatever you do in terms of these futures.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I've seen Josh Allen anywhere plus 800, and I think he was plus 900 somewhere else. I actually did play Aaron Rodgers MVP, and I actually did play Josh Allen MVP as well, because I think there's this narrative out there about the Bills being down and will you hit on their schedule. I think that roster turnover could be a good thing. They might be better off without Diggs, and obviously if they go on and have a great year this year, I think last year, so many people, it seemed like every week, people were begging Josh Allen to be the favorite, to ultimately be the MVP. And he was always around in the race. And every week it was, maybe now's the buy point on Josh Allen. I think there's a bit of a narrative play there too, with Josh Allen around 9-1 to win MVP of the league.
Bear Bets full episodes drop twice a week right here on the Bear Bets YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to stay ahead of the odds, and let's celebrate all of our wins together.